Hey, it's Todd Fox here from Hawk Squawk, the new name of the show, with his co host,
Ryan Wilson.
Ryan Wilson, all the way from Kansas. As I'm in California, we're doing the Seahawks talk here on Hawk Squawk. And we're really happy, because we didn't have too much expectations, Ryan, right?
No, we did not. I think you picked them to win. I think I picked them to lose, but
Well,
being wrong never felt so right, I guess is what I could say.
I agree. I mean, like, look, we both agreed that everything had to go right for Seattle to win this game.
Hmm.
And we're going to break it down for you as we move on here. First off, let's start out by the fact that you had Joe Buck, Troy Aikman taking over Monday Night Football for the first time
Okay.
together.
Seattle
And
favorites.
exactly. But it does seem though when Joe Buck's in Seattle, always something crazy goes on, and this was
Hmm.
lived up to the hype.
It did.
What were your opinions on the crowd though? Because that shocked me.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you even. Your prediction was that the crowd would and should play a factor, and it sure seemed to have played a factor. I think what was it, 4 or 5 delay of game penalties?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we talked about Russ not being used to that. So I think it definitely had a factor.
What about the booing though?
I I don't know if Russ was expecting that.
I don't.
I mean, maybe he was a little bit, but maybe not like that.
Yeah, because there was some things that I missed on social media, such as Doug Baldwin, Richard Sherman,
Hmm.
who were very vocal about his, leaving here and very pro Seahawks. And Richard Sherman, he flipped the script since he's retired and he helped out with some of the DBs. We'll talk about that later. But on social media, I mean, he creamed him after the game.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because a lot of Facebook pages, a lot of like NFC West pages, or even in the media, were saying that Seattle fans were not classy and not appreciating the fact that he got us our only Super Bowl, could have got us two. But some of his comments that he had said in the recent weeks, I think, rubbed the Seahawk fans the wrong way. But
Sure.
were you surprised though? Because I was. The amount of signs, the disrespect on the jerseys, and the amount of boos. Were you surprised?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
I mean, I think again, we talked about this before a little bit. I appreciate the man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, he didn't have a horrible game necessarily. He threw for 340 yards, but at the same time, like he does these little. It just seems like he has these little barbs he throws out every once in a while. It might be, a hashtag. It might be something. It might, it's not. I don't think there's any fan who hates Russell Wilson. We're not, disrespecting the man, but he's not on our team anymore.
Yep.
So I mean, there might be something about the way that he left town. There might be some, you know, but no, I think that what was it? I seen a poll that said 37% of people said they would um, cheer him. 63% said they would boo him. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like 2/3. So I think you were going to see some people that were not happy with him leaving.
Yeah. And one more thing on the crowd. Uh, Intense playoff atmosphere. I mean, that was one of the loudest games I've heard in some time. I mean,
Yeah,
when they were on defense, I mean that place was rocking.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that those goal line stands had something to do with that crowd noise too.
I agree. I agree, and we'll get into that too because we'll break this down quarter by quarter.
Cool.
And so as the game got started, all the hype was there. Seattle, always likes to kick off, and Denver played play out of their playbook and said, "Hey, we won the toss. We're going to kick off."
Mhm.
And Seattle gets the ball. Impressions on that first drive. What did you think of Geno working that first drive?
You know, he had 16 yards rushing in the whole game,
Mm-hmm.
but he looked very nimble. He looked very like he stayed in the pocket, but he also got out and he didn't run for a lot of those yards, but he looked like he was in command of the offense.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely looked like his completion percentage was great. Uh, but yeah, it just like maybe he just overcame the nerves at the time, or something. Because I was saying that we were saying I'm nervous and I'm not even on the field. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what those players were feeling. There's got to be something, but it seemed like he didn't let the moment, overcome him on that first drive. So
Yeah, and I thought, on that, I believe it was a third down play, might have been maybe a first down play, but the touchdown to Disley, I think it was Disley, right, that made the catch for the
hmm
touchdown. Um, Farmer got lit up by the blitzing linebacker, and
yeah.
I thought for sure Gino was just going to fall into him, fall down, take an easy sack, and he stood up and threw a nice little dart after bringing the safety up and leaving
Mhm.
Disley wide open. I mean, I was shocked right then and there. I'm like, hey, we might have a chance in this game.
Yeah. Well, we seen a little bit of Gino last year and he played good. He's uh, one game into the season and a couple of last year, he's a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did what he had to do, and I give him all the credit in the world hitting Disley long. So
Yeah,
I've been critical of us going long. You have to do it sometimes, but he did it just enough, and he made the plays at the time. So
he did. And then I want to ask you a question in your opinion. The offense, especially in
mhm.
the first quarter. I know we talked in length on the last episode. By the way, it was the first episode, so check it out.
Yes.
But we talked about unimaginative offense.
Mhm.
And boy, was I eating crow in that first and second quarter because they were running plays that you were mentioning that you were hoping that they would do,
Mhm.
and they were very. I mean, what did you think of the first half offense, the play calling?
Um, it wasn't the normal guys that I think that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Disley always has this way of making these plays, but I think it's partly because they don't expect him to. But he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just statistically, and I know we're talking about the first quarter, but for the game, you know, uh, Metcalf was targeted 7 times, but he only had like 6 yard average. Lockett only had a 9 yard average. Fant only had a 6 yard average.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Parkinson and Disley. So what you're saying here is like, I think Gino hit 8 different receivers.
Yes, yes, he did.
So I mean, good on him for getting not getting locked in. His eyes were open around the field. He was hitting guys. He was making the plays he needed to make, and I give him all the credit in the world. That was. Do you think, real quick? Do you think that drive helped the confidence of the Seahawks?
Oh, I think so. I mean, not being able to get a 3 and out and give
Mhm.
the momentum right to Russell Wilson, let him cook because that first drive for Denver, I mean, they got some chunk plays. The defense didn't look very good to
Mhm.
start till they got that stop. But the getting that big touchdown on the board, I know I said the opposite. I kind of wanted Denver to score first so we could boo them because I wasn't expecting the rain of boos. But I think getting that touchdown, I mean, that threw all the pressure off of Gino directly on Russ.
It did. It did. You're
Yeah.
right.
And the other thing I was thinking about, Ryan, is we mentioned, hey, he needs to have some max protect. He needs to have double tight end, an extra guy in the backfield. And believe it or not, I don't know if they heard the pod, but they were. I saw two running backs in the backfield, or a running back and a tight end, or I saw single back, two tight end formation a lot in that first half. And I was like, where was this last year?
Some 12 personnel. All three tight ends got involved.
Yes,
And
yes.
and again, I'm just giving you these things for the game. I believe the wide receivers were targeted 13 times and the tight ends 9,
Yeah.
and our running backs 3. So I mean, I think from a standpoint, we're only one game in, but it does seem like they want to get those tight ends involved. So
And also something else I was thinking of, Ryan, when I was watching that first half, including the first 4 catches by Metcalf. They were not your traditional, hey, just lob it deep, see if he can catch it or not. He was running routes
he was.
and clean routes, and that
Mm-hmm.
was something you were saying that you wanted to see out of Metcalf. And by God, he got 3 first downs doing it, and he
Sure.
looked really good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were talking about his big body, his athleticism,
Hmm.
he can shield defenders and catch the ball. He's got a big catch radius. He's strong. So again, like he only had 40 something yards in the game on 7 catches. Okay,
Hmm.
fine. But he made the first downs to keep the drives alive. And um, we know he can go deep.
Hmm.
Everybody knows he can. But the evolution of his game has to be this. again, he was targeted 7 times, so he is sort of Geno's guy. But yes, that's what he was built for. He's built to get those first downs.
Yeah, I mean, him and Sertan going at it all night was definitely something to watch. And like you said, on one of the possessions, he made it. I mean, Gino put the ball exactly where it had to be.
Mhm.
Sertan had excellent defense on him, but like you said, he used his big body to shield him. The hands were a little bit too higher than Sertan, and it was a gorgeous pickup, which I don't think was highlighted on the broadcast
No.
at all. But I thought that play was huge because I think that was like a 3rd and 10 or something, and Gino
Hmm.
converted. So he started first 13 out of 13,
Hmm.
and they were rolling
Yeah.
and to a 10-3 lead. And then what did you think of the play? Kobe Bryant just came up a half second short on that throw by Russell.
He's going to take those lumps. It's his first NFL game.
Hmm.
Him and Woolen had a few plays that they're learning curves, but yeah, you're right. Like another half second, he might have picked that ball off. But that's how the game of football is.
Hmm.
I mean, those half seconds mean something. When we were saying the crowd noise at the goal line, that half second for that running back to get his field of vision and cut means something. So, I mean, that could I've seen that happen to the best defense or defensive backs in the NFL. So, I mean, I just say it's a learning curve. I mean, it was a big play
Hmm.
that was given up, but he'll be all right.
Exactly. And then going back to it too, before we hit halftime in this game, because the second quarter went back and forth, they tied it. But I thought a huge key drive was extended by a couple penalties. The Broncos were racking up the penalties with
Mhm.
personal fouls, holdings, pass interferences. But the fact that the Seahawks, whether they got help or not, they went right back down and punched them in the face and got a touchdown.
Yeah.
What did you think of that drive to respond to the Broncos drive?
Um. Well, I think that they mixed up the plays. I think was that the one where Penny fumbled? Is that the one where Penny
Yes.
broke it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Penny had the long run. He looked really good. He did fumble going down, but the surprising thing about that fumble was who recovered it.
Yeah, the center.
Yeah, Austin Blythe was all the way down the field, to recover a fumble. I mean, that shows you some effort. But yeah, that long run set it up. But yeah, they overcame the moment and
Hmm.
they did what they had to do. The momentum was on their side. Like I think just talked about the confidence. I think they had the confidence, and Gino made the plays. So um, we didn't have any sacks in the first half either. Just so it looked like we had clean pockets. Cross did well against Chubb in the first half. Lucas had a holding penny on a second run, which we can get into later.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like it just seemed like the line was doing their thing, and Gino was feeling it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. The rookies came through on the line. They looked pretty good for the most part till late in the game.
Hmm.
But I think that was a combination of late in the game, Gino holding the ball, getting back to some bad tendencies. Because in the first
Hmm.
half, I mean, he was letting it flow and he had the time to throw, and he didn't have to worry about that pass rush from the blind side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I great points. He had a clean pocket. Night, if he was going to make a throw, he's going to make a throw. He's going to have the time. Rushing game looked good. They mixed it up, and they were up 17-10 going into half, which was well surprising, or it was
Unexpected for
yeah,
sure.
very unexpected. But you kind of had this feeling in the second half that because I was talking with my bro, and I was feeling like, man, I have a feeling Russell's going to come out here in the second half, and he's just going to ding us.
Hmm.
He's going to come down there, and we're going to be in trouble. But going into halftime, up 7, your defense is playing good. Thoughts on the corners? You brought them up a little bit. You had Michael Jackson, you had Kobe Bryant, and was it Milan? What was his
Uh, Michael
27?
Jackson. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. Like you know, it surprised me. These are guys that we haven't known. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've seen Michael Jackson. I've heard Michael Jackson. And I like your point about every time he makes a play, they should play hee hee.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, really, like then you had Woolen, you had Bryant, you had the couple of these guys, and they're unknown commodities. But I mean, really, Woolen only had one tackle. He had a couple of penalties on him.
Hmm.
Seemed like Russ was trying to pick on him a little bit,
Hmm.
going deep. But for the most part, those guys all held. Justin Coleman, I think, even had 5, 6 tackles. So
Yeah.
Artie, we have some guys that are injured too. Sidney Jones had to come in later on. Artie Burns is hurt, but it tells me there's depth there.
Hmm.
And for Michael Jackson to come out and have 2 fumble recoveries at the goal line
Hmm.
is just phenomenal. He even had a couple of really big tackles too. So he impressed me.
And some
Hope it,
hits.
he had some hits. He did.
Yeah. I I have to give it to three. Well, actually, two big players unsung in this game. Besides the ones you just brought up, was Barton had a hell of a game.
Yes.
A couple big hits, a sack, and then also I know I'm going to slaughter his name.
Nwosu.
Yeah, Wosu. I was hoping you'd say it. Uh,
I'm not pronouncing his first name, but
yeah, but he had on the he had they gave him a tackle for a loss, but he really should have had two sacks.
hmm
And then he had a big strip too at the goal line. He was one of the ones that punched out the ball from Melvin Gordon.
yep. He and Diggs, I think, forced the fumbles. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man. I mean, that goal line defense and the defense inside the 20. How do you go 0 for 4 and only get 3 points
hmm
in the red zone? I mean, wow. I mean, that's impressive.
here's another thing: to have a goal line stand fumble recovery is one thing,
Yeah,
but to have 2 of them in one half,
insane.
that's insane. And again, we say this, that you and I have been talking about these things for years, but I just want to bring this point up. It seems we've talked about how this feels like a team this year.
Hmm.
And again, I'm not really necessarily knocking Russ when I say that, but I am saying that it just felt like it was Russ's team for a couple of years. And um, prior to that, it was the defense, the historic defenses.
Hmm.
But this year, it kind of feels like the mantle has been passed back to the defense. They're the ones that set the tone. They're the ones that made the plays. And how many times in the last 4 or 5 years have we needed them to get a stop on third down and they haven't? How many
Hmm.
times have we needed them to make those stops? So, I mean, yeah, the defense, I credit, if I had an MVP of the game, it would be Clint Hurt.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I just think, what he's done with this defense is phenomenal. So,
This was definitely not your Ken Norton defense.
no, no, not at all.
And even and look, I'll say this: in the first half, they were a bit sloppy, and
Mhm.
even the first drive, I think of the third quarter, they were a bit sloppy. They missed a lot of tackles. There was over pursuing. I think that they were blitzing at the wrong time, or they were blitzing from the wrong side.
Mhm.
And credit Russell Wilson, he read it a few times, and he audibled out stuff that we haven't seen him do in Seattle, and I
Sure.
felt that was huge. He did only except one play he audibled into the blitz,
Mhm.
but he read it wrong. But the other ones, he was on it, and he was picking apart the defense a little bit. But when they needed it, the defense showed up, made big plays, and I think I give him the MVP as well. I think the defense played inspired. My problem, though, if we're going to get into some cons,
Yeah.
is the second half offense
Yep.
went completely conservative
Yeah.
and back to the old Seahawks.
Yep. Gino, 6 for 10, like 30, 35 yards in the second half.
Yeah, Rashard
You
Penny
know,
had like what 15 yards second half.
yeah, something like that. I mean, now, I'll give it, here's another thing about the first half that we need to play into the second half here. I think that the first 4 of 5 of Denver's drives were inside their 20 to start.
Yes.
So Dixon was doing his part. The defense was making stops, but um, that's like, so they come out, they start, but in the second half, Denver had these long drives.
They
I
did.
think they had a 6.5 minute drive after kickoff in the second half.
It was 7.5. They almost
Was it
did an
seven
eight.
and a half?
Yeah, yeah. They almost went 8 minutes in that
I mean,
first
that's
drive.
that's 1/4 of the half, So
Yeah.
I mean, so I just have to mention that when we're talking about it. But yeah, the play calling, it's the same story that we've been talking about for a long time. Put your foot on the gas. Now,
Hmm.
I have to say that was. I heard somebody say recently, even if the Seahawks can make this sloppy, it doesn't have to be beautiful. If they can just make it sloppy. And that's kind of the second half was just weird. It was like you had the fumble recovery at the goal line. Then you
Mm-hmm.
had us get the ball back. You had Metcalf fumble. Then you had them go back to like the whole third quarter was just this back and forth of, and so I mean, when you take the whole third quarter out of it, it was just back and forth, and that kind of does play into some of the stats. But yeah, it was conservative. It was 6 for 10. I'll take 6 for 10, but 30 yards.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a defensive adjustment on their part. Maybe they underestimated Geno throwing long. I did. So
Yeah, I did too. I was waiting for at least one bomb. He did a couple play actions where I thought, "Oh, damn, here it comes," and then
mhm.
he'd check down or he'd go down over the middle to a soft zone kind of pass.
Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed that they didn't, like you say, keep the foot on the pedal or try to do something creative.
Mhm.
They just went to a very bland second half offense. And one play I'll bring up, Melvin Gordon's first fumble,
Mhm.
where pretty much everybody but Michael Jackson and the receiver for I forget who it was for the Broncos. If he does not play and keep playing the Broncos receiver, that's 100-yard return because had he not tackled Jackson, there's nobody there.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and that would have changed the course of the game completely.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought that was a huge play that was not really highlighted because credit to the receiver for the Broncos, he did not give up on the play. I mean, everybody else did,
Well, that's
except
what you're taught from the time you start playing sports, right? Don't give up on the play. So
exactly. But we see some of these guys, like
they
I'm
do
telling
it.
you, yeah, the other 20 players on the field were just standing there.
Mhm.
Jackson was the only one that reacted to the ball and the receiver. He's like, oh hell no, because if he
Yeah.
doesn't make that play, he's still running. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but uh but yeah, third quarter was scoreless, and then the fourth quarter, they the Broncos put up 2 field goals, and the way McManus was kicking and making it look real easy, I was very much in doubt, and I felt when Seattle got the ball with 6 minutes left, I thought, okay, we've got to take this at least to the 2 minute warning. We got to get some chunk yards, try to get a field goal to go up 4 and
Mhm.
force Wilson to score on this defense a touchdown.
Mhm.
I felt if you're leaving it a field goal or less, we're in deep shit. And
Mhm. Yeah.
man, when they got the ball back with 5 minutes, I was like, here we go.
Here we go. Russ is going to do his thing and beat us on the last minute drive, and then all the naysayers and all the media is going to go crazy and say, see."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and they're gonna say, hey, you know what? Seattle played their very best. They got all the breaks, and they still lost.
mhm.
And it was, I think, as far as a hardcore Seahawk fan, like I'm pretty sure me and you would have took it as well. It's one of those, what is it, moral victories,
Sure, sure,
and I would have because you wouldn't
I would
expect
have
them to
too.
be in the game. But the fact is, Russell ran 3 minutes off that clock quick, and
Hmm.
so they were down to the 2 minute warning, and they still were at their own 40.
Hmm.
What was I want to get your deep analysis on this, bro? What were your thoughts with them getting the ball with that much time left, and then what transpired before we get to that last series by the Broncos?
Um, I don't know because look, I don't know why you wouldn't just try and like it's like they wanted to run the clock off to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
To me, at least. I don't know if that's true or not, but why wouldn't you just want to score? Like Gino had 30 yards passing. We had 0 points scored in the second half. Why why not just like score the ball, give it trust your defense. That's just my opinion on it, but it seems like they just like they wanted to run the clock down and win at the last minute. I don't know. It just seemed like that.
Did
It was a weird last drive. It was just strange.
did the Broncos think Patrick Mahomes was back there for the
Nah,
Seahawks?
may have been, man. Maybe Gino just, got in their heads. I don't know. But yeah, there was look, you're playing in Seattle, tough place to play, one of the toughest places to play. You got a rookie head coach with a new quarterback and a new system. There's a lot of factors that go into this. Hackett, yeah, he made some weird coaching decisions there, and Russ's decision, and I've even heard it said like, why couldn't Russ call the timeout on the last
Mm-hmm.
before, um, but just the whole thing was just, I just think it was a breakdown. Maybe it was just a debacle that you can't. I don't know. Maybe you can coach that in practice, but
If you guys get a chance watching this after you watch this one, of course, Uh, Go and look up Peyton Manning and Eli Manning show the replay, the final 10 minutes, or actually just the final drive. It's highlighted on there with Shannon Sharp. I watched that earlier today, and how shocked they are about what happened in that final 2 minute segment with Russell. And they were like, okay, we just need 5 yards, or call
Mhm.
timeout on third down, call timeout. And Peyton kept saying it over and over.
Yeah, and like what was it, 20 seconds, 30, 25? So I don't know how many seconds went off the clock in that last minute. It just like
Well,
even
he made
even Joe Buck, who I can't stand Joe Buck and Troy Aikman necessarily, but even they were like, what is going on? I mean, they
yeah,
had time to
because
commentate on it as the clock was running down. So
yeah, because he made the catch, I think, with 56 seconds, and
mm-hmm.
then they ran it all the way down to 21.
Mm-hmm.
So before calling a timeout.
That's 35. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I mean, because you figure when it was 4th and 5, I was like, crap, they're still kind of in field goal range. I
Mm-hmm.
known that Denver likes to kick 60 yarders for some reason. But I was not expecting that. And I was expecting Russell to run him up to the line, call a quick slant or something. And if they get the first down, pretty much I'm thinking the game's over the way McManus has been kicking. But if they don't get it, you got 3 timeouts,
Mm-hmm.
and it just was really weird. It was like all or nothing. So I think when they've called the initial timeout, I'm thinking, okay, they're scared of Seattle getting the ball back. They're probably going to go for the first down. They
Which
get
I
it.
never thought I would hear, by the way. They're scared of
Yeah.
Seattle's. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought they were going to go for the first down and then go for the kick, because
Mhm.
the way that Seattle was playing, they were playing good from 7 to 10 yards out against the pass,
Sure.
because that's why Russell was dinking and dunking. I mean, he had 11 passes to the running back
Mm-hmm.
and for only 60 yards. So I was thinking they're going to do something like that, release a running back, get it not like a screen, but someone in front of him to where he's going to eke out those 6 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my biggest fear. But when I saw the kicker come out,
Yeah, and they showed Russ on TV like coming out, and he was like, you know, taking his helmet off and kind of giving people high fives, low fives, whatever you want to call it. But like I didn't know what I was witnessing.
yeah, yeah, I
I didn't
was.
know what I was watching because and it's been said many times. I'm sure you've seen it too. Why wouldn't you? I don't know why you just paid the man the money. Why? And he's supposed to be the let's ride guy.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you let him make the play?
Yeah,
Why
and,
wouldn't you trust your defense against Seattle's offense that didn't do it? Like what? You know what I mean? Like it's just the whole thing was just strange. It was just, I think it was just a rookie mistake, just like we talk about players,
mm-hmm.
getting their feet wet and being thrown to the fire. I think it was just a bonehead thing by Hackett. But hey, it is what it is. We got the win.
And you know what? Before before that, like it was one of those things where I just kept waiting for him to lose, bro. The second
Hmm.
half, I just kept waiting for him to lose.
Yeah,
I kept waiting for the Broncos to get that kill shot in there,
sure.
and especially when McManus missed the first one so bad, I'm like, great. I bet you it's one of those where you shouldn't have iced the kicker and just let him kick
Hmm.
it. And I'm thinking he's going to come back on the next one, especially when it first went up. When it first went up, I'm like,
Yeah, they
oh
kind of did
god,
this like curve
yeah,
thing, like
yeah.
oh, okay. I ain't worry about that. Oh, they called timeout. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then and then the second one. I mean, our reaction on the call afterwards was priceless. But that kick, I mean, it looked good for all about 85% of the kick, and then at the
Hmm.
end, it just curved to the left. I mean, that sucker might have bounced off the bar and
He
went
had
in.
the leg for it. It was
Yeah,
long enough,
it was long enough.
but it's
That's
hard to get that aim in that in between the posts from that distance. So, but yeah, he had McManus is his. I think he's like 1 for 6 or something on 60 yarders. He's kicked those before, but you're not in mile high either.
exactly. And the
So,
other the other thing I caught was real quick, not to cut you off, but they were
no, you're not.
saying on another show that the there's been a total, I think, of 60 kicks that have come, or 36 kicks, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
from 60 or more, and only 4% of those have been made. Two
Yeah,
kicks.
yeah.
So that was your ratio. You have a better chance
Of
of
letting Russ try to get the first down
yes, you have a
and call a
40%
timeout that
chance.
you have timeouts.
Yes, exactly. You don't even have to spike the ball. Just call another timeout.
No.
Uh, Weird football game, man.
Weird football game. Weird. Look, and I want to say this, a win's a win,
Hmm.
but and I'm glad we got the win. I'm excited about it. I seen something. We were all excited to see certain things about the game, but had we not stopped them twice on goal line, you're going to see. Look, I'll say this: there's 5 to 10 plays every single game that make or break.
Yep.
It can be Diggs dropping the interception. It can be Metcalf fumbling after it could, but literally they could have been winning 31-17.
True.
Like, so I just, again, I want everybody to celebrate, but I just want you guys to know, like, I mean, we got the win and a win's a win, but it could have been a lot different. But the defense and those stops at the goal line were crucial.
Absolutely. I mean, again, and you had some guys defensively that just balled out, made plays when we just absolutely needed when we got one.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger surprise, in your opinion, the defense for Seattle or Russell Wilson not getting those Russell Wilson shots? I mean, he really did not go deep at all.
I would have to say our defense.
Okay.
I would have to say our defense, man. Again, the 3-4 is not something we're familiar with. And if you look at, and by the way, I love Al Woods just pushing that guy to the side and like
Oh,
throwing him
yeah.
down that one play. And even on the goal line stand, he penetrated inside, trying to double team him. But I mean, they did what they're supposed to do in a 3-4. They ate up space and they let
Mhm.
the linebackers make plays. And so from that standpoint, again, Clint Hurt, hats off to you. That's we had the person. How many years you been? I've said this 2 years. We have the personnel for a 3-4.
Mhm.
Like I'm like we should just go to 3-4. And so I would say the defense. Again, the rookies had a little bit of miscues. But Diggs played a good game. Josh Jones came in, had 7 tackles after Jamal got hurt. So
And
uh,
that's the elephant in the room that we hadn't even addressed this entire time.
mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just I'm saying the defense. Russ did get some shots in. He did get, he did make some plays down the field. He had 340 yards passing, and we gave up a lot of yards defensively. So I'm
Yeah,
not impressed necessarily, but what I'm saying is all these years that you and I have been watching this, we've expected them to make a play when it needed to be made, and that's what the defense did, and that
that
was the
is
difference in the game.
that is true because since Pete Carroll's teams have come onto the scene, you're all like you said, they're bend but don't break defense. You are waiting for them to make a play,
Mhm.
and they lived up to the hype.
They did.
Credit too, like you said, Josh Johnson came in there. Quandre Diggs had a nice game.
Hmm.
But we lose Adams, which now he's going to get paid out 18 million after this year for next year, and so it's going to be a cap hit. But Jack, we lose him, not even playing an entire half,
Hmm.
and he was going to be one of these guys that's going to. I think he was going to have a big year blitzing again,
Hmm.
getting back to the
And he
2021.
almost had a sack in this game. So.
Yeah, he almost wrapped up Wilson on a nice clean blitz. But it's going to hurt not having Adams out there because he is one of those guys that back in the day you could have thrown in the LOB and he would have fit right in.
Hmm.
He would have been back there with Cam and Earl and been one of the boys. But
Hmm.
we're going to miss him. And it's obvious now the Jets really won that trade.
Yeah, I don't look. I looked up earlier today Adams' stats,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the same amount of interceptions in 3 years. He had 2 interceptions with the Jets, and
Mm-hmm.
has had 2 interceptions with us. But he had like I think 6 forced fumbles and 4 fumble recoveries in 3 years with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think he only has maybe 2 forced fumbles and 1 fumble recovery or something with us. Not even maybe not even that much. But his production as tackling on average is better in the 42 games he's played with us in 3 years than it is with the 60 something he played with the Jets. So what I'm trying to say is he's been productive when he's on the field, but just like they always talk about, he's not on the field. And to his credit, his game is this bash, he's He's a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
You know my favorite player is Cam Chancellor, and
Yes.
he brought the boom to the LOB, and people he was an intimidator, and so I think that Adams has had two shoulder injuries. He's had his finger fused together. He's had now this is looks to be a serious quad injury. He's it's just sad because we will never. It's one of those things as a Seahawk fan, you'll never know what could have been with him.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just never know. And but you're right. At the end of the day, and he's the highest paid safety in the NFL, I believe.
He is.
So it just it's another one of those deals where we look at it and go, it could have been, but definitely they won. They won
Yeah.
that trade for for the time being.
Yeah. Exactly. And all we can hope now is that we win the trade with Denver. You know what I mean? Like so far week
Mhm.
1, it looks good. But we want to see what those draft picks are for next year. And I think even on the telecast, they were talking about how it's going to be a quarterback driven draft. There's a lot of no-namers that are going to be coming out, or guys that are going to be coming out of the woodwork,
Mhm.
like they always do. But then we have the typical names. So um it's going to be interesting. But for this season, we got a game now that we'll look ahead in our next episode. But just first thoughts initial, after the Niners lose a sloppy game, 19-10, Trey Lance looks like garbage.
Mhm.
They depended on him to
But it
run
was
the
a
ball.
sloppy field, bro.
It
It was
was.
sloppy. It was in the this football player had to throw in the rain.
Yeah. Hey, but
Yeah.
but I'm saying Fields made it count though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Fields got it done when he had to. He threw when he had to. He threw two.
In the rain.
Yeah,
I'm
pouring
just
rain.
trying to, take the excuses away. We're going. I mean, Fields did it in the rain, so okay.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, this week though, and I know we joked about it. Had they beat Denver,
Mhm.
there's a legitimate chance going up to Santa Clara that we could be 2-0 because facing Jimmy and having a healthy Kittle and guys like that, because the defense is going to be no joke. I mean,
Mhm.
they're really going to have to play a lot better on offense, or at least how they did in the first half.
Mhm.
But initial thoughts on that Niner game coming up here for you?
Elijah Mitchell's gone for
Mm-hmm.
2 months, they say.
Okay.
Um, they have a rookie, and then they have Wilson. I think is who their other running back is. Shanahan, as innovative as he is in the pass game, that's a run first offense. Like you
Yep.
say, it's a West Coast type of an offense. Um, they've always got a good defense. These games with the Niners, although I think they've won 5 or 6 of them in 20 years or 15 years. I don't know. This is a joke.
Yep.
But long story short, they're always tough. These are the NFC West is I never say we're just going to blow them out of the water,
Mm-hmm.
So, but you're right. We legitimately, if Lance looks like he's looked, and the defense comes to play like it played, Kenneth Walker's coming back next week. I believe Daryl Taylor wasn't much of an impact in this game, but he's looked good. I believe there's some defensive players coming back. Josh Jones is going to get some strong safety reps with
Mm-hmm.
first team now. Um, and we legitimately could start 2-0.
Which
We
would be
could.
amazing.
Yeah. First place undefeated 1-0.
Yeah, right now. I mean, who would have thought we're the beast of the West right
Oh
now?
my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I want to say something about Josh Jones. I didn't know much about him till a couple of weeks ago, but apparently he was a second round pick by the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be the starter, and he requested a trade when they didn't start him. Maybe that was immaturity. Maybe that was him just knowing what he's worth. He went to the Jaguars the next year, I think, and he did get an ejection. He hit Brooks, got a helmet to helmet injection, and now he's in Seattle. But this is a guy that's 220 pounds. He's looked
Mm-hmm.
good in camp. He's got a second round pedigree from pro scouts. He got 7 tackles after Adams came out with an injury. So I'm pretty excited to see what he does. I don't know anything about his pass coverage. I'll have to be watching that the next game. But that's a guy who could be one of those Seattle kind of guys, that you just pick up and
He fits right in, right?
fits right in.
Yeah, and already I think that no matter what, I think he's probably got better hands than Adams. I mean, I've never seen a safety not be able to catch a ball. Like
Oh
Adams was trying to
man.
catch it with his face mask, but I think we might have more opportunities for an interception.
Hmm.
Now that because I think the only ones that I've ever seen Adams get on an interception is when it's tipped up in the air and it just falls into his
Yeah,
hands.
he's in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, because usually even those tip ones he juggles or drops. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let
And
me
another,
ask you a question real quick.
uh-huh.
What do you, so you just asked me we could be 2-0.
Hmm.
So going forward, do you play into the teams, the winning records, the morale of the team and things like that? Like, because do you think this win helps them next week? And if we go 2-0, do you think that helps them going through the season?
I think so because I think we're just like the players. The players are on social media. If they tell you not,
Mm,
they're joshing you. I think they hear what's been said. I
yeah.
hear guys like me and you, ESPN, Fox Sports, whatever, saying that Seattle doesn't have a chance this year. They should be
Mhm,
fourth place. It's a rebuild. They're setting up for next year's draft. And I think some of these guys take pride in that because it obviously showed. They
mhm,
obviously wanted to beat Russ,
mhm.
but getting past that first hurdle and actually doing it, and then if they're able to get a big road win up in Santa Clara, I think they might be onto something to where they start to believe on a weekly basis, like, hey man, we're 2-0, let's go 3-0.
It
And
could.
and who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, I'll eat crow.
I will
I
too.
mean, I've been critical of them. I didn't know what to expect. I predicted we would score 17-20. I predicted Denver would score 27-35. If they would have got those two touchdowns in the red zone, we'd have been, I mean, my predictions would have been right, but I was wrong about
Mhm.
them losing, winning the game. And so I just think that I liked what I saw, and I agree with you. If we can go up there and win, then I think it could play out through the next couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, because if you look at the schedule, I mean, obviously it's after week one. It's not a murderous row. We're gonna
Mhm,
have a lot of competition going through though, and with our division and stuff like that. But we play some more AFC West opponents. We get the Falcons, we get the Saints. I think we get the Saints. I might be wrong on that. No, but we get the Bucks, things like that. So we're gonna have some tough games in there. Might have some
mhm.
tough losses, but for a young team, uh, you know, I don't expect this team to win the first game and then lose 11 straight,
Mhm.
but I do think they're going to be in some games. I think my prediction of only them winning 4 games
Yeah.
might be because of the whole Russell Wilson effect and thinking, oh, this team's too hamstrung. Because again, I'm one of those fans that I love Russell Wilson. I knew
Sure.
he had his warts. I mean, they were coming to the surface more and more as his career was going on here in Seattle.
Mhm.
But and now that we hear from former players, it's like, whoa, there was a huge divide.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by the Baldwin thing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Baldwin was this guy.
Yeah,
So,
me too. I seen Richard Sherman's podcast today, and I mean, he was really critical of Hackett, but at the same time, he was really critical of why didn't they let Russ, throw the
hmm,
ball? I
yeah,
mean, so and I don't know if that was, throwing jabs or not, but yeah, there's obviously some kind of divide there, like you're saying, that has been not been shown. It's been kept internal, but for whatever reason, um, I probably have my opinions on it. But there's just some people that didn't like Russ.
I think, yeah. I mean, he's changed. He went from the
He did.
from the old, like hunky dory, like he was like Opie from Andy
What that
Griffin.
one dude call him a square? I forgot who it was.
Yeah,
He said that dude's a
yeah.
square.
And he just turned into all of a sudden Hollywood Wilson,
Mhm.
But I look at it too this way, and this has always been my thought. If you could rewind time and Seattle wins that Super Bowl against the Patriots,
Yeah.
I believe Seattle becomes the first 3-time champion.
Yeah.
I think they wipe the floor with Carolina. They win home field because they won a lot of games despite a lot of locker room tension and
Mhm.
problems
Mhm.
that year. Like that team was being held together by glue and shoestring.
Mhm.
And if they win that third year, or if they win that second year, they no doubt in my mind they blow out Carolina. They may have home field instead of Carolina,
Sure.
and I think they take out Denver and Peyton again in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion on that. But the way it
Well, but
played
I
out,
think you're right with the leadership they had in the locker room and the defense they had. That's very possible.
yeah. And people forget, Carolina had a huge lead in that game. I think it was like 35-0, and
Mhm.
Seattle nearly won that game.
Sure.
So I mean,
We used to have those big games with them. Remember
yeah.
Chancellor jumping over the line and and they said you can't do that. He did it again and blocked the kick and punt or whatever. Yeah.
Between them and the Vikings, I think over the years, the Pete Carroll years, those teams aren't in our division. But
Mhm.
for some reason, because the way that either we would finish the season or they would finish the season, we always seem to play Carolina and the Vikings every year.
Yeah, we do. It's always on our regular season schedule. So
Yeah, they might as well be division opponent. But yeah,
yeah,
that's you
yeah,
know
yeah.
we've had some crazy games with the
The
Vikings too.
Eagles too. That's another one we always on our schedule.
True, true, yeah. But yeah, as we wrap it up here, any final thoughts on this big W that we got against the Broncos on Monday night?
Hey man, I'm willing to say I was wrong. Um, I still think that there's a few issues there. We've talked about the second half, 0 points, 30
Hmm.
passing yards. Um, just the tale of two halves, it seems. But overall, I would say like I, I was looking to be impressed. I was impressed with the tackles. They
Hmm.
were running to Lucas's side. Penny looked good, hitting the lane and taking some 20+ yard runs. Gino was making the throws that he needed to make for first downs. The defense stepped up. I'm thoroughly impressed. I still think that there's going to be bumps and bruises to come, but going forward, I'm a little bit more optimistic than I was before.
There you
What about
go.
you?
I'm the same way. I think I'm impressed in the first half offense. I would really hope that they open it up a little bit more for Gino and get back to those different formations, 12-man
Mhm.
personnel, like you said, because I feel Seattle played one half of offense and the defense played two halves,
They
you
did.
know?
You're right.
So
You're right.
they got to
Which
match
it's
that
been
up.
opposite though. It's been like, one half we come out and we stop him, and then the second half we just give up all these yards, or
Hmm.
it, but to see the defense play like they did, man, I'm inspired. I'm impressed. I think that defensively, even with some rookie corners, I think we're fine. Barton looked great.
Hmm.
He's a I seen him wearing a cowboy hat talking about working on the farm in camp. He's just one of them strong farm kids. But you've heard me even say, why are they not playing Barton? You pick him in the second round,
Hmm.
and then he just plays special teams. Like that's another one of those. But look, he played good. The guy has 10 tackles. That's if he could average around there, that's 150 tackles. If he didn't get 10, if he got 8, 150 tackles for the year, take it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
that's a Pro Bowler when they still have the Pro Bowl.
he was all over the place, man.
He made a lot of key plays. I mean, I'm telling you, as good as their defense played, like you said, they had some plays where they could have got a lot better. But
Sure.
um, I felt really good about his play, and I think that if they can get more pass rush in that 3-4, uh, they're going to be kind of sneaky good,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll keep you in ball games. We're gonna have these these Pete Carroll games where we're just knocking on the
Yeah.
door, either trying to come back to win or trying to hold one.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
so
Well, hey, again, do you think Gino, just real quick, do you think I was looking at his 200 yards a game. So he's
hmm.
on pace for like a 3,400 yard season.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, of course, that those aren't the actual numbers, but those are like Russell Wilson esque numbers when he first came to the Seahawks.
True.
Played defense, 35 to 100 yards, run the ball. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they tweaked some things, or maybe they went back to the old way.
Yeah. Well, I think with Russell last year and the year before that, I mean, we were dead last in time of possession.
Hmm.
So if you're able to move the chains, however you got to do it, unconventionally, conventionally, dream up some things, scheme up some things with our boy Smith here. But if he if they're able to do that and keep the defense off the field and as fresh as they possibly can, I think that's what hurt the Seahawks the last couple of years. Wilson was not able to do that. Too many quick drives, 3-and-outs,
Yeah.
too many sacks, like you were mentioning, him running around in the pocket. Like,
But when you make those long throws and score touchdowns too quick, that's what you're saying, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was sort of like feast and famine at the same time.
Sure, that's a
You know,
great way to put it.
so like I think if they're able to do games like this to where you can ball control, because I know in the second half the time of possession made the Broncos look like they owned it for most of the game, but the second half they had the ball primarily the whole time.
Yeah.
But in the first half, Seattle was winning the time of possession. If they can do that on a regular basis, they're going to be in these games where you're thinking they're not having a chance. They might be
man,
in.
I got to say something to you. If Denver looked at the stat sheet, they would say, how did we lose this game? They won the time of possession. They won the total yards. They won the passing yards. They won the running game yards. They won but they didn't win. I mean, that's the thing. Like there's this element of, again, I like your feast or famine. I'm going to apply it here. Like, yes, we got the win. Yes, there's so many great things, but there's also some things we got to look at, and that was to be expected. So, but I mean, really, they won on all levels of the game. They just didn't win the game.
Yeah. And it's odd when that turns out, because I think if you looked at the halftime stats, the Seahawks and Broncos were dead even on passing, rushing, everything was dead even.
Yeah.
And then and it just went totally skewed in favor of Denver, like you said, in the second half.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Seahawks football.
Exactly. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps up week 1 show here. We will get to later in the week, probably around Friday or so, maybe Saturday. We'll jump into the
Santa
Clara game, which I may be in attendance in that game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a couple of my friends are pushing to go up there. Tickets for the cheap seats are only $100 or less.
Wow.
And that's weird for a home opener.
Yeah, well, you get to see the monkeypox offense firsthand.
Yeah, I'm going to go up there like in a spacesuit, so I don't.
That's right. Yeah. Bubble boy or something.
Yeah, get my shot before I go in.
I don't think you have to worry about it, man.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be good. Well, that's cool that you're going to the game, though, man. So.
Yeah. So it should be something. I'm hoping they win, man. I mean, I've never been to Levi's Stadium, Jordache, whatever the hell they call it. But I'm really hoping we can go up there and put it to those Niner fans, because the only thing that I'm going to have a hard time standing is when they get the first down, they do that Hawuga thing. I don't know what the hell that is, why they do it. It just seems so stupid. So whatever.
Yeah.
It's Niners fans.
Yeah. It's better than Bang Bang. So.
There you go. All right, Ryan. Well, this is a good show, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you.